Hi everybody, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Durling. Thank you for watching. I hope everybody's doing okay out there. I'm halfway vaccinated. My wife and I got our first doses. My son and daughter got their first dose, so it's all looking uphill, or upwards, I should say, not uphill. Hopefully we're on the downward coast now and getting somewhere towards some normal life again. So we're into June now and getting nicer out there. It's actually really warm in here today. Today, on this episode, I'm going to go through my Whitesnake cassette collection. And Whitesnake cassettes, that's how I started in Whitesnake, because it was back when I only bought tapes. I started buying their albums back in 1988. And I got some reissues here, a few oddities towards the end that maybe you don't see on cassette all the time, so we'll get started. So, given the reissue series that Geffen did in 1987, this is Geffen Records, and of course Whitesnake became huge in 1987 all over the world, and they reissued their albums, or most of them. And it's kind of a confusing history with Whitesnake, where they went from David Coverdale leaving Deep Purple, doing 2 solo albums, one of which was called Whitesnake, 2 words, and putting out a Whitesnake EP and then putting out an album. So this isn't exactly how it went down, but this is how the reissues want to make you think it went down. So 1978, this is Snakebite, kind of the first Whitesnake album, even though it's a combination of a Whitesnake EP and side 2 of the second David Coverdale solo album, North Winds, which basically amounts to about the same personnel anyway. This is a Canadian issue on Geffen. This particular release contained, I think, one of the songs that defines the early Whitesnake, their cover of Bobby Bland's Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. So there's some early band photos there. This is prior to both John Lord and Ian Pace joining the band, so it's not half Deep Purple yet. It's got all of the lyrics here, and it's kind of got a brief explanation from David on how these tracks came to be. I think that it's not a contemporary one, it's not 1987, it's 1978's version of how things went down. To further confuse the issue, also in 1978, I always considered this to be Whitesnake's first album before I kind of read that no, Snakebite should really go first. This is Trouble. It's undoubtedly the first full-length Whitesnake album. And this too is a Canadian Geffen Records reissue. That's what the cassettes looked like. And by this time, John Lord had joined the ranks of the band, but not Ian Pace yet. All the lyrics to all the songs. 1979, they were on a roll. Kind of an oddie album cover, Love Hunter. Chris Chelios is the artist behind this one. Again, another Canadian Geffen reissue, which is interesting because we've got these 2 cassettes, it's 3 really. So these 3 cassettes here from Whitesnake on Geffen, 1978 for the first 2, and then 1979 for Love Hunter. Geffen Records didn't exist before 1980, so it's kind of an interesting situation that happened there. There's the cassette. More band photos, and all the lyrics and some credits. They all tended to use about the same font when they did these reissues. Now, when they did the reissue series, they left an album out, and they did that on purpose because Geffen A&R guy John Kolodner wanted Coverdale to redo the song Fool for Your Lovin'. I don't know why that made a difference in putting out the album, but anyway, there is no Geffen reissue, unless there's so few of them I've never ever seen one or heard tell of one, for this album. This is 1980's Ready and Willing, generally considered to be the first or the best early Whitesnake album. This is an EMI copy, specifically Fame Records, and this is a UK cassette. I'm not sure if this is any kind of reissue. Kind of an odd. So it's got the printing, but you can still see through the cassette. And there's no lyrics in this one, just very minimal, just listing the songs and the production credit. Also in 1980 is actually the second Whitesnake album I ever bought. Live in the Heart of the City. It was released as a double in some parts of the world, but in North America, because Whitesnake weren't as popular as they were in the UK at this point, they just put it as a single. Now, this was the second Whitesnake album I ever bought. Of course, I started with the 1987 album, but I had seen some of their early videos, including the original Fool for Your Loving, which is still one of my favorite Whitesnake songs ever, and I wanted to get the album that had that song on it. And I didn't know that Ready and Willing was the album, didn't know what it was called, didn't know any of that stuff, just what I could see in the record stores. So all I could find was this live album that had that song on it. So I bought it, and I really, really like it. I think that the versions of these songs improved greatly on the original versions. Not quite so dated sounding. In a lot of cases, bands had a natural tendency to speed the tempos of songs up, but in this case, I think it's a good thing because I think these are more the natural tempos those songs should be, or maybe it's just because I heard it first. But when I go from these versions to listening to the studio ones, they sound very, very slow to me. I love that cover. It's a cover painting, very, very well done, of the band on stage. And no credits inside this one or anything, just very bare bones. 1981, this time we're getting into some US cassettes. Next Whitesnake album, Come and Get It. Of course, the Canadian one would look a little bit different than this. It would look more like that. But anyway, this is the US Geffen issue. Very different on the side. And of course the clear cassettes, which I thought were so cool because they came out in the States before they came out in Canada. No lyrics inside this one either, just band photos and a little bit of credits. Then 1982, an album that, as far as I've been able to ascertain for all my research that I've done, didn't come out in North America in 1982. It only came out in 87 when Geffen did the reissue series, Saints and Sinners. This is a US copy on Geffen, and of course this album is the first to contain Crying in the Rain and another song you might know called Here I Go Again. There's the cassette. No band photos in this one, tellingly, because the band was in a lot of turmoil, just a live shot of Coverdale. And a little bit of credits. So Geffen Records came on board in 1984 and signed the band. They didn't do the reissues for 3 more years, but the first album on the label was very successful, Slide It In. This is a Canadian cassette, and a really, really good album too. I don't care if you get the UK version or the North American version. I don't think you can go wrong with this album. It's got possibly my all-time favorite Whitesnake song, and Love Ain't No Stranger. There's the cassette, and just a little bit of credits in this. So of course, the one that changed everything was the 1987 album, which is actually called 1987, depending on where you got it. In North America, it was self-titled with awesome Hugh Syme artwork, very iconic. This is the American issue. The Canadian one, the writing would have looked more like that. And this, of course, contained the redone Here I Go Again, which is the song that Whitesnake are best known for. As a matter of fact, in recent years, due to the tragic death of Tawny Katane, their video girl and David Coverdale's ex-wife, re-entered the rock charts at #1, which, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe it's because people remember the video, but if they liked the video but didn't like the song, I don't think they would do that. So it's testament to timeless music for sure. This one's got a little bit of credits and all the lyrics, and the Whitesnake little emblem there with Serpens Abyss, which I think is like, you know, rough Latin for Whitesnake, of course. Next up is an album this might be odd to say, but I think I actually prefer it to the 1987 album, which is a classic. But this is the first Whitesnake album I was waiting for as a fan. So Slip of the Tongue came out late 1989. Again, Hugh Syme artwork, very cool. And this is an American copy on Geffen. And I've never not liked this album. Always been a fan of this album. It's got the lyrics and credits in it. So then, of course, Whitesnake tour for that album. They go on hiatus. Coverdale does the Coverdale Page album. And 1994, he puts a version of Whitesnake back together. Actually, a curious version contains Warren DeMartini from Rat, who were on a hiatus at the time. And no recordings came out of that, unfortunately. But in 1994, Geffen issues Whitesnake's Greatest Hits. This is a Canadian copy on Geffen Records. And this contained the radio remix of Here I Go Again, which I've never liked. Not the version of the video, but there's another version. There's 3 recordings of it. And it doesn't have the long keyboard intro. It starts at rhythm with drums. I've just never liked that version at all. But it's a curiosity, so I guess it was good to have it on an album. And also 3 previously songs that were previously released on UK and foreign versions of the albums, but not released in North America. So it's basically all stuff from Slide It In, 1987, and Slip of the Tongue. And a pretty good write-up on the band. You know, it doesn't go in really in depth to the early years because it's concentrating on the Geffen era. But still a good introduction for anybody that's interested in getting into Whitesnake. So then the next Whitesnake album comes out, and it doesn't come out in North America. In 1997, David Coverdale's Whitesnake, Restless Heart. This also came out with a more traditional looking Whitesnake cover. And this is this copy I've got here is on EMI. I believe this is a UK copy. Not the easiest thing to find. No, it's made in Holland. So this is like a European version of Restless Heart. Quite a good album, actually. This has all the credits and all the lyrics. But if you want to get the full version, you get the Japanese version because it's got 3 bonus tracks. But it's a good album, and it deserves some more attention. So then I think the final thing to come out on cassette from Whitesnake came out in 1998, and it's called Starkers in Tokyo. Starkers is a very British expression for nude. So this is basically Whitesnake Unplugged. Later on, this album would be reissued as part of the Whitesnake Unzipped package, but this is just David Coverdale and Adrian Vandenberg playing in front of what sounds like a very small audience, revisiting some classic Whitesnake songs. And in one case, David goes back to his Deep Purple years and does Soldier of Fortune. This is actually from Poland. Very rare to find. There's the cassette itself. It's on EMI again, which was their international label. And this is one I don't open up because it never folds back right. Even there are a lot of photos in it, and it actually has all the lyrics to the songs, but it's never folded up right for me, and I don't want to damage it. So of course Whitesnake would get back together in 2003, and then in 2008 they'd start releasing albums again, some quite good albums too. And if you want to find out more about that, I'd recommend you check out Tim's Final Confessions Whitesnake CDs. But that's my Whitesnake cassette collection. I'm wondering if anybody out there has some rarities that aren't seen here, or maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching Tim's Final Confessions.